Hi guys, welcome to Because Hobby. I'm Polly and today we're going to be using the Warhammer 40,000 paints and tools set to paint up a Termagant. So there he is. He's been primed in Wraithbone and that's just the spray. So we're going to be painting him up in the Hive Fleet Kraken colour scheme. Right, let's get into the colours. So we're going to need some Corax White, Baden Black, Mephiston Red, Bugman's Glow, Avalanche Sunset, and some Agrax Earthshade Wash. And we're just using the paintbrush that came with the set, the little starter paintbrush. Right, so let's get painting. Right, so here he is, all ready to be painted. Like I said, he was primed in Wraithbone Prime Spray, but you can just paint him white if you want to. Now the reason we're choosing a bright base coat colour is so all the other colours really pop against it. So just to start off, we're going to be painting the entire model in Corax White. Just pop a little bit on your palette, water it down to a nice consistency. You're going to want it quite thin, otherwise you'll find you get the brush strokes, but you're going to need quite a few coats of this, so just make sure you've got a decent amount ready to go on your model. Take your time, really make sure you've mixed that in properly, and I just like to test the consistency on my hand. Need a little more water. So we're just going to get a little bit on our brush and we're just going to whack it all over the model, on the skin bits, on his shell or carapace, all over the gun. We're going to paint absolutely every inch of this model. We want it nice and flat and consistent, so it is going to take you a couple of coats. I think it took me 3 to get a nice consistent white I was happy with. So the reason we're painting it white over the Wraithbone primer is because we want a really nice smooth coverage. We don't want any patchiness, which can sometimes be left behind with the spray. I'm not the best at spraying models, so I like to have a nice consistent coat of painted paint so I can work from that, build my base up. So I'll finish painting this guy up white and I'll bring you right back when it's done. So here he is, all painted up nice and white. He doesn't look much different from how he did before, but I can assure you he now has a very nice consistent base colour that I'm going to work off. So we're coming in with our Corvus Black now. I meant to pick up the Abaddon Black, as that's the one that's actually in the set, but I must have picked up Corvus by mistake, so my apologies for this video. But you can use Abaddon Black just as easily and use it in the exact same way. So we're just getting a little bit of that black paint onto our palette, watering it down slightly. So again, we do want a nice consistent flat base colour for the carapace or the shell of the Termagant. So we're going to have to coat this a few times. It can take quite a while to paint black over white because for the first few coats it's really streaky. You can see your brush marks, but I assure you once you get onto about coat 3, you should be okay. So we're just going to take a little bit of that paint and we're just going to paint the top parts of his shell or carapace. I'm not really sure what it's called. So just be quite careful that you don't go over onto where his skin would be. But if you do, it doesn't really matter. You can tidy that up with the white. It might take a few coats to cover it properly, but you can get that coated. So we're going to go all along the edges. Make sure you've got underneath the shell as well. And we're going to do each bit of shell that's on his back, the little bits on his legs, and the bit of carapace that's on his head. There's a few little bits of carapace on his weapon too, so we're just going to make sure we get those. There's one at the front and one at the back, so we're just going to paint those up a nice steady black colour. So I'll finish painting this guy up and I'll bring you back when it's done. Here he is, we've got him all painted up the bits we want black, so that's just all the armour bits. Now we're going to go in with Mephiston Red. So give that a good shake. And pop a little on your palette. Now we don't need too much, but we do want a decent amount to work with, because we're not actually going to be using that much red. Make sure you thin it down nicely, make sure it's properly mixed in. Once you're happy with your consistency, you can get going. Make sure you clean your brush off first, because this bit is going to need quite a clean brush. So what you just want to take a tiny little bit, and on the very edges, there we go, move it into shot, on the edges of your carapace, on the harsh edges, you're just going to paint about 60 to 70% of your shell with the most amount of red paint focused on the edges, and then sort of layering it up so it's darker at the top than it is at the bottom. That might sound a little confusing, it will make sense when you see it closer up. So just do small brush strokes, just one at a time, just layering it up like that. And this is not going to look good until it's completed. You might think you've messed it all up. I assure you haven't. Just keep going with it, and when it's dry, you'll see that it is quite an effective technique. So you just leave the very highest points, just like that. You get them red, and you leave the lowest points in black. By doing this, you'll get a really nice fade effect. So it's almost like the red and the black are one colour. So I'll finish painting the red sections, and I'll bring you back when it's done. So here he is, a little bit closer up, so you can really see that it really does work, that technique of just painting the edges. And what you can do once it's dry, you can go back and just edge highlight with red, but just leaving about 50% of it black and 50% of it red. That could work. You could do a bit more red, a little less red, it really depends on what you like. So now we're going to go in for Bugman's Glow, and what we're going to do with Bugman's Glow is we're just going to pick out the bits of the muscle that's showing underneath his skin. So like there's cracks in his arms, there's a few like gouges, or I don't know if they're wounds maybe, on his arms and his legs, and we're just going to pick those out. So we only need a very tiny amount. Make sure that's properly thinned down. So we're just going to find one of those little areas where the muscle's showing through. We're going to make sure we've got a nice tip on our brush. Just get a very tiny amount on the brush. And we just very gently paint the small section. And it really doesn't matter with this bit if you go outside the lines. They are very small sections, but you can just go back with your white and cover it up. So you can really make it look nice and tidy after you've painted it. You don't have to focus quite so hard on making sure you're painting inside the lines. So I'll bring you back when those small details are done. Okay, so here you go. A bit closer up you can see what I was talking about. There's kind of exposed parts on his body, underneath his skin, little bits of muscle creeping through the top layer of skin. So I've just gone and picked out those bits, the little gashes on his arms, on his legs, little bits on his gun as well. I think he's coming together quite nicely. So now we're going to go over the whole model with Agrex Earthshade, and we're going to give it a really, really heavy wash, as heavy as possible. Obviously you're going to have to take care not to let the wash pool in the flat surfaces, but what we're going to do, we're going to coat the whole body, the carapace and the skin, and this is going to give a really nice subtle, almost tan colour to the skin because it's going directly over white. So just giving it a really healthy wash all over. You can put it on the base too, it doesn't matter, just get it all over the gun. Just slap that on nice and heavy. Just get it into all those little cracks and crevices. So I'll bring you back when the wash is dry. So here he is now, the wash is all dry, and honestly I think he looks great. You can see what I mean about that kind of subtle sort of flesh tone tint that's been added. Kind of looks like dirty white. That's kind of what I was aiming for. So we're going in with Avaland Sunset next. So we're just going to use that to pick out the very small pinpricks on his eyes. We're not going to thin down the Avaland Sunset. We're taking it straight from the pot, and we're just going to go straight in for the eyes. Now you can approach it from the side or from the front, whatever suits you better. And it doesn't really matter too much if you can't get it all on there. So if you've made a bit of a mess of it, don't worry. Just rinse your brush off. Make sure there's no paint left on the brush, but there is water, and you can just wipe the paint away. It's a really good little tip for when you can't quite get it. So I'm coming straight from the side, just a tiny little dab onto his eye. Just like that. So I'll bring you back when that's done. So now we're done with his eyes. We're going to move on to just edge highlighting his carapace. So we're going to use Mephiston Red. And we're just going to take it straight from the pot. We're not going to bother thinning it down at all. Just a little bit on your brush. And as we showed you in previous videos, we're just going to run it across just the very edges of the carapace. So where the red was boldest when we were painting it on, we're just going to kind of add back a little bit more of that vibrance that was taken away when we washed the model. So we're just going to go down each side, and then I also went up the middle where the sort of points of the shell meet. So just do that for every bit of carapace that's there, on the head, on the back of the termagant, on the legs, and make sure you remember to get the gun as well. So I'll bring you back when that's all done. Right, so with that, that's it. This was a quick and dirty little tutorial. I actually think this model has come out absolutely brilliantly. I've never painted a termagant before. I really enjoyed it. It's definitely an army I would consider painting in the future. I think it's a lot of fun. I love the shapes of their bodies. I find them really nice to paint. And I really like this paint scheme. Let me know what you think. I mean, I think it looks pretty cool. And for 4-5 colours, it's really quite easy to do. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Up on the screen now, you should see a nice big picture of him and the colours that we used. Thank you so much for watching. You've been absolutely amazing. Thank you to our 5 subscribers now. I can't believe that we've even got 5 subscribers. That's amazing. So if you're watching, thank you. You're amazing people, and me and Sean love you. So thank you so much for watching the video. Thank you so much for watching through to the end. That means a lot. I hope you enjoyed it. I certainly enjoyed painting this guy up. It was a lot of fun. I'd like to maybe try out different Hive Fleet schemes in the future. See what I can come up with. I really enjoyed this scheme. I think it's quite pleasing to look at, and I really like the way the red shell sort of blends in with the carapace. I think that came out really nicely. If you liked the video, consider subscribing, leave us a little like, leave us a comment, let us know what you'd like us to paint next. That would be amazing. Yeah, thank you so much for watching, and until next time, keep painting.